Hey YouTube, in this deck profile we're going to be going over the Imperial Daughter deck that I built. It is probably the biggest troll deck in the game, if you can play it right. It does have some significant bad matchups though. One of them being Good Stuff Kagero. They're pretty good as long as they have Waterfall in the deck, or they just ride up to Dragonic Overlord. Well, actually, now I think about it, now Overlord's not that good. Basically, this deck has a hard time dealing with Waterfall and Perfect Riser. Perfect Riser is another one. Unfortunately, because Perfect Riser is the top deck in the format, I think that prevents this deck from seeing more play, because this deck is pretty fun to play, but it gets old pretty quick, mainly because you can't quickly end games unless you just get really lucky on crits early and you end up with a Silent Tom and either a Dark Cat or a Coco or something behind him to just force them into a 6 damage heal position for a game. So yeah, so we'll go over the deck here. But basically, if you're not familiar with Imperial Daughter, it is a stall deck, and it's regarded as the biggest troll deck in the game, mainly because what it revolves around is either not having any rearguards on the field, so that basically makes all of like Kagero stuff useless because they can't retire your rearguards because they're never around. But sometimes you have to play standard OTT with CEO and like the regular style and Sakuya and stuff like that. But anyway, let's get into the choices. But essentially, what you do is you win by decking the opponent out. So if you look at the trigger lineup, we're not running any draw triggers. We run 9 crit and 4 heal. And that's what makes this deck really unique, because it's very heavy aggro. Imperial Daughter herself, if you have no rearguards and she removes restraint by counterblasting 1 and absorbing 1 of your rearguards into the soul. So she will swing 21 with a critical, so she'll have 2 crit, she deals 2 damage, and she swings for 21 with no booster. So you can think of the scenarios where that would be good. Anytime the opponent doesn't have an interceptor, that's very, very good, because they're guaranteed to take 2 damage. Or it'll force a PG out. And the fact that we run 9 crit makes the deck even more scary in terms of like how much damage potential it can do. And we also run 4 Silent Tom. So with 4 Silent Tom, it's like even if they have the PG, if you weren't getting criticals enough and you're not forcing them out of their hand, like you get them to 5 and then Silent Tom gets on the field, it doesn't matter if they draw trigger into a PG, it's not going to help them. So yeah, 4 Silent Tom, and that's basically your traditional OTT win condition, but on top of that we have Imperial Daughter for the stall and the deck out capability. So key cards are Imperial Daughter, you gotta run 4 of it, it's really, really good. For other grade 3s that are notable, Sakuya is really good, because Sakuya allows you to bounce back all your rearguards that have on-call or on-place effects, like Dark Cat and Coco. I've said this in previous live streams before, but Sakuya and Coco together is essentially CEO's effect, like her main effect. Sakuya also is pretty good because she's 14 if you have 2 or more cards in hand, so that with Coco is already 20, with Gemini that hits over, that hits 20, over 20 basically, and then Dark Cat, same thing. So pretty good, a backup Vanguard for the deck. You bounce your Dark Cat so you can draw more to effectively mill your opponent out. And then we run CEO. I wish I had 4. If I had 4, I would definitely be running 4. But I only have 3 right now. I'll be able to get the next playset from the next season. But yeah, CEO is a good backup, because it effectively essentially what happens if you don't have Imperial Daughter is you just play the deck the standard OTT way. And then it's just, try to crit, put them to 5, and then bring out Silent Tom, and then just end the game. That's basically what it does. For the grade 2s, we run 3 Promise Daughter, because Promise Daughter is basically Imperial Daughter's grade 2 form. So it works really, really well, because it can hit some really good numbers with a booster behind it when you're playing standard way. And then in the late game, you can use her to, hit over effectively any interceptor and then swing with Imperial Daughter and try to crit for game, because we're running 9 crit. So stuff like that. And then for Wise Man. You basically want your interceptors to be really tough. So that's why, I mean, because we run 4 Silent Tom, Mocha is not as preferred because you're not really going to, you don't want to, the 8k body's bad, but it doesn't hurt because when they kill it, then you have no rear guards and Imperial Daughter instantly goes up to 21k. So essentially the opponent, and since 9 draw is like a common thing, the most you'll ever take in terms of damage is 1 damage per turn if they check a trigger on their turn, a draw trigger or a heal trigger, doesn't matter. So you basically stall them out. You take damage very slowly. You use that damage to counterblast to remove restraint. I mean, nothing else uses counterblast in here except Imperial Daughter, and I mean CEO, her Mega Blast effect, which we almost never really see in this build. I mean, sometimes Meteor Break Wizard will go off. So you usually don't have counterblast issues. And then 4 Silent Tom, because he's one of the main win conditions. The first time I ever used this deck, I was stalling them out. Didn't really know what I was doing, but I just ended the game early because I called like Dark Cat, forced him to draw a card, then Silent Tom attack, and that was game. So yeah, and then of course Gemini just the one because this was Silent Tom is 16. For Dark Cat because we don't have any draw triggers. You want to draw, and then it effectively decks the opponent out. What you want to do is you want to get the opponent to 9 cards in hand. They'd be playing Dark Cats over and over again. Like Sakuya would bounce them up, use them again, and then they start milling the top cards off their deck once they're at 9 in hand. Then on their draw phase, they'll also lose that card. So it's pretty funny when it actually works that way, though. And then 4 PG, and then 4 Coco because Coco is really good at letting you check, you know, like look for the triggers or increase the likelihood that you're going to hit a critical or a heal that game when CEO's not the Vanguard. Whether you're using Imperial Daughter, like you'll call this down, you'll check top. If it's a crit, you put it on top, then you have Imperial Daughter absorb Coco, and then Imperial Daughter can swing into whatever, and then it get a crit. I mean, or you'll like call this, you'll call Wise Man or any grade 2 to kill their interceptor, and then, you know, you proceed to do the same play with Imperial Daughter to the Vanguard, and then she'll hit a crit. She'll just deal 2 damage anyway. So yeah, so that's basically the deck. And then we run Lozenge Magus because she's your 5th heal. It's just really, really troll. So that's basically it. Let me know in the comments what you guys think of the deck. It's pretty satisfying when everything works out, but it does require a bit of setup, and it's not. I mean, it would be better if we didn't have Perfect Riser currently. And maybe Waterfall, although you don't really see too much Draconic Waterfall. Sometimes you'll see him, but usually, like most of the decks out there, are probably only running like 2 copies of him in the Good Stuff Kagero builds. But those are the only 2 that really are good against this one. Sometimes Garmor and Galahad can form some pretty good like center line to Imperial Daughter. But other than that, it's pretty good actually. It's pretty good against Tsukuyomi. It's pretty good against like a bunch of other decks that can't really form 21k center line. So anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed that deck profile video, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts on Imperial Daughter because I haven't encountered Imperial Daughter that much in the game, but it's a pretty hilarious deck actually overall. So hope you guys enjoyed the deck profile, and I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks.